What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another SK Wealth Academy podcast. So, today I am going to speak about the significance of the short squeeze on the Gamestop stock. But I want to cover points that I haven't seen really anyone else cover online. Not that means they have not covered these issues, but if they have been covered, it's been less than 1% of people that have been covering them. So the majority of these stories are writing about how this is a David versus Goliath battle, and that for once the people that the ruling class and the oligarchs would refer to as the serfs or the slaves are winning the battle against the uber wealthy and being able to short squeeze GameStop stock all the way as high as above $500 a share, which is a ludicrous valuation because honestly, as a brick and mortar video game store, GameStop shares, if they were fairly priced, would be priced somewhere around, I don't know, maybe about $10 a share. So they've been fluctuating anywhere between like $100 to $500 a share over the past couple of trading days. And that has been deliberate as there has been a movement of people online trying to execute a short squeeze, which they've been incredibly successful at doing, to cause a lot of the hedge funds that have large short positions against GameStop massive losses. Now, again, like I said, I want to talk about a lot of other issues because I've been talking about for years the importance of supporting and showing unity and community with all of our brothers and sisters that need our help, whether it's in a fight like this, rather than just shutting our mouths and keeping silent or staying on the sidelines, or even for people that have had their businesses destroyed, their livelihoods taken away because of their fight for truth. We need to stand with them because far too often over the past 15 years, I've seen people not say a peep because they're scared of the retribution from the oligarchs and the ruling class should they show unity with people fighting for the honor of the common person. So I can start right off the top of my head by thinking about issues of privacy, because I remember when the whole Edward Snowden case was, in the mass media, because Edward Snowden was a former NSA employee that blew the whistle on all the spying the U.S. government was doing on its citizens through its internet use and through smartphone use, and even through spying on listening in on phone calls of citizens, not terrorists, but the common citizen, intercepting and reading emails and on, looking at U.S. citizens' internet browsing habits, just, basic invasion into human rights of privacy that were being stripped. And when I spoke to loads of people, even including some friends back then, about how they should support Edward Snowden, and they needed to speak out against the outrage that was being committed by the mass media as a witch hunt against this honorable person. And so many people, including, like I said, some friends, told me to my face, they did not care and were very clear that they did not care, because if they were being spied on, they didn't care about Edward Snowden's fate, because they said they had nothing to hide. And some even said to me directly that if the state wanted to listen to every phone call they made, keep a record of everything they bought online, keep a record of every website they ever visited, read every email they ever sent, that they could care less. And I told my friends that such an attitude was a dangerous attitude, because basically they said they did not care because the stripping of the rights of privacy did not affect them directly in any way that they could see was going to affect their quality of life. So they did not, even though they were, in my opinion, being victimized, they did not feel as though they were being victimized. And I told them, if you don't care about this issue, the next event in which our rights are stripped away, that might not impact you either. And the next one after that might not impact you, but eventually it's going to blow back on you. And we saw how it did last year in 2020, continuing on to the start of this year in the economic lockdowns that are a consequence of a virus that's not even dangerous to anyone under the age of 70 years old. So it's impacted everyone, including, I know, 100% of the people that said they did not care if their rights of privacy were taken away. And you know what enabled the ruling class and the oligarchs to deploy this lockdown of the entire world? That included travel lockdowns, that included lockdowns of travel, just even not to other nations, but even just 5 kilometers away from your home if it was not for an emergency, that locked people down from socializing with their friends. That was directly a result of people not caring, a decade ago, that when it was revealed that the rights of privacy were stripped. So this is why it is imperative, and this is what I'm going to talk about, because I haven't really heard anyone talk about, what the Gamestop long holders are doing and executing the short squeeze against the hedge funds, as far as why people need to stand in unity with them. They're just saying, oh, this is a wonderful thing because David is taking on Goliath and winning. But no one has talked about, as far as I've seen online, the importance of people that could care less about the stock market standing in solidarity and unity with the people that are fighting the wrongdoing of the oligarchs. And of course, as I said, I don't believe that GameStop shares deserve to be 300 and some odd dollars as it is now, or even have risen up to $500. That's way above the valuation, but that's not the point. And of course, that's manipulation, because it was a deliberately planned, strategized, organized short squeeze of the hedge funds to cause them pain, right? So, but the point here is the important point. The point is when the common people get together to organize some manipulation in the stock markets or in any financial markets in general, the ruling class brings that hammer down on them for doing so. But yet, when the ruling class manipulates stock prices and stock markets and capital market asset prices, commodity prices, nothing is done. Even when people lash out against their manipulation, they allow the continuation of this manipulation because, of course, they're benefiting from the manipulation. So only when the manipulation hurts them do they bring a hammer down on that behavior. So that is why people need to really understand the importance of what's going on with this GameStop short squeeze, and why it's so important to the future of humanity. Because I've told people for the past 2 decades that even if something does not affect them, if they see something and observe something that is honorable, that is courageous, they need to voice, not be little cowards and say, oh, I can't speak about that because then it's going to hurt my ability to earn income. They need to stand up and voice solidarity and support for the people doing so. Because I've already, mentioned in the past many times, and in fact, if I can go find them, because I told you I've been, writing articles for 16 years on my new site. If I can find these articles, I'll also put the links in the show notes to this podcast. And when you see click here to read more about this podcast, then you'll see podcast show notes, and then you'll see links to all reference items. I'll see if I can find them, because in the past I had urged precious metal dealers not to lower their prices when bankers entered the gold and silver and palladium and platinum futures markets and smashed the prices lower in those fake paper markets. I said, hold your ground, keep those prices high, because it is a temporarily artificially manufactured price slam on behalf of the executed by the banking cartel on behalf of the oligarchs and the uber wealthiest people in the world. and you should not lower your precious metal prices in your dealership. If you don't, then those price smashes in these fake paper markets will have no effect, and the prices will automatically rebound in less than 24 hours. Of course, even though I made this appeal, very public appeal to precious metal dealers, none of the precious metal dealers listened to me. In the past, I've also said too, if we really want to see the gold and silver futures prices escape that price manipulation, then I said, everyone listening to this, if you can afford to do this, if you have enough savings, everyone should buy at least 10 ounces of physical silver, take delivery home, and buy at least 1 ounce of physical gold and take delivery. But how many people listen to me who actually have heard me say this dozens of times over the last 20 years? Very few, I would imagine. So this attitude of not caring if it doesn't affect us directly. Oh, I don't own gold, I don't own silver, even though that's not the point. Obviously buying physical gold, physical silver, if masses of people do it, it will drive the price higher. The point is every single person in the world is oppressed. All 7.8 billion of us are oppressed by this fractional reserve fiat currency banking system. So free all of us from financial slavery. So in essence, it would help everyone. So this attitude of not caring, either because we don't feel we're directly affected, like the whole invasion of privacy issue I just discussed, or we don't understand how we're being negatively affected. We can't do that anymore. We have to stop thinking like serfs. If we think, and that's how serfs think. That's how wards of the state think. So if you think like a ward of the state, if you think like a serf, guess what? You're going to be a serf. You're going to be a slave to the state for the rest of your life. So now that we have given them power by not enough of us acting within the past 20 years, when we had an opportunity, really, and it's still not too late, but we need to act now. Today we need to act, because we didn't act, enough of us didn't act for the last 20 years. So now it's even more difficult for us to overturn the oligarchy, because what we did by remaining silent on all these issues for the last 20 years, it gave the ruling oligarchy the power to lock us all down if we visited a hospital and tested positive for the virus, to threaten us with prison time, and said if we left the hospital, we are going to be breaking the law, and force us to fork over thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for a lengthy hospital stay to be quote unquote cured of the virus, which if you are under 70 and you have basically a 99.7 or 8% chance of surviving the virus. So there's no need for worry. And why I gave you that example of this that hospital incident that happened to a friend of mine, that's a result of none of us caring about privacy issues when Edward Snowden revealed that. And by the way, too, for all those expats I've met in Asia that say Edward Snowden is a traitor, he should be executed, Julian Assange is a traitor, he should be executed, there's only one or two reasons you have that opinion. Number one, all the information you have received about both of those people have been completely from state-issued propaganda distributed through the mass media. So you're ignorant of really what they did. You think they did something much worse than they did. That's number one. Now, that's the only reason you could hold that opinion. Or number two, you really have a very weak sense of morality and are a coward. Those are the only two ways you could think that. So, a lot of people have strong opinions without ever researching the reality behind what the mainstream media is telling us. And I also would appeal to those to really do a lot of research and don't even believe that what I'm saying. Do your own research, but don't research mass media, because if you research mass media outlets like CNN, Bloomberg, Reuters, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fortune, The Economist, the Financial Times in the UK, you're not going to ever get to the bottom of the truth. You have to research yourself and access independent media to be able to get to the bottom of the truth. Because Just as I said to all those that were long GameStop stock, that there's a possibility, don't ever think that you can't be hurt by this ruling class. Because if you have not been, because I know a lot of the people that were part of that whole organized effort to short squeeze the hedge funds are fairly young, like still in their 20s. And I know that a lot of them don't have experience dealing with the financial class, so they don't understand the lengths they will go to. They hadn't been through some of them probably weren't even born yet in the 2008 global financial crisis. Well, actually, they had to have been alive, but I just mean very young, just kids, right? So they weren't thinking of buying stocks back then. But some of them were really not old enough to go through a financial crisis where they understood that, yeah, you could have been invested in a hedge fund back then and requested that your position be liquidated, and guess what? The brokerage houses denied your liquidation, because they said if we liquidate, it's just going to drive the prices lower. We're not going to do that. And you would think, oh, that can't happen in America, can it? Of course it can, because a lot of these hedge funds incorporate in the Cayman Islands or some other unregulated territory, so they can do whatever they want, because in the small fine print that no one reads, of the prospectuses of these other products that people invest in and sometimes put hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars into these products, the financial industry can do whatever they want. So a lot of those people's positions were not liquidated, even though they wanted to liquidate when, say, the hedge funds dropped 30%. They weren't liquidated until they dropped like another 20 to 30%, and were down 50 to 60% of losses. And so, again, if you hadn't been through that, if you hadn't been through the shorts that forced all the bank stocks back then, the big global bank stocks to crash, and the CEOs to lose literally cumulatively hundreds of millions of dollars in the worth of the shares they held in their own companies, you probably did not remember that the state intervened, the financial industry intervened and made it illegal to short all bank and financial stocks. So they basically artificially engineered a huge reversal in those collapsing bank and finance share stocks, and basically recapitalized all the wealth of all those big CEOs. So that's why I said you have to be wary. Don't read just one opinion. Don't think that, oh, because people are saying it's literally impossible for the hedge funds to get out of their short positions now, and all they can do is buy more stock to try to cover the losses of the shorts. I said, don't believe that for a second. What do we see? What do we see 24 hours after I said that? We saw basically Robinhood change the rules, right? Put a lot of restrictions on the trading of not only GameStop, but also AMC Entertainment, a lot of these other, First Majestic, a lot of these other stocks that were being short squeezed. They put a lot of restrictions, and what did we see? We saw the collapse in hours of GameStop share price, from $500 to $112. And of course, they reversed a lot of those restrictions and then went back right up to 380, but then it went down in the below 200, then it went back up to 380, and now it's somewhere around 300. So again, people, you have to understand, you're not in the clear. You have to, the wisest thing to do is you should listen to some people that have some experience fighting this manipulation for decades. Yeah, I'm talking decades. These are the people that you should listen to. And you should understand that when they say the risk, there is no such thing as having no risk of trying to push that price higher. There's always risk, because you have to understand what this ruling class will do to try to destroy those positions. So again, what did we just see? Now, Robinhood said that there's 36 stocks, including GameStop, that investors can only hold one single share. Yes, one single share. They said at this current time, they're not going to force liquidation of all the positions. But think if they do. Think if they start forcing liquidations, what's going to happen? That share price is going to crash. So again, you could see that laws can be changed, rules can be changed at any time. And when they're changed at any time, guess what? Unfortunately, they're always going to be changed to support the wealth and protect the wealth of the ruling class oligarchs and to hurt the wealth of the common people. 100% of the time, those are the rules, regulations, and changes in laws that are going to be made. Now, I also saw one thing I would warn against. Somebody said, oh, now should we move over to the futures class to try to squeeze the shorts, say like in gold and silver and other commodities in which these big global corporations make billions of dollars basically manipulating the prices up and down. And I would say, don't listen to that. I would say the person that is raising that question does not have experience in the futures markets, because they would never say that. They don't understand how being buying a stock and just holding a long underlying position in a stock is a completely different game than buying futures. Because when you buy futures, there's an initial margin you have to put up front. Often, and those futures contracts are highly leveraged, meaning a small price movement could destroy your position. And not only that, you're risking more than you put up front. If you're long a stock, say you bought $1,000 worth of Gamestop shares, even if that stock went to zero and the company went bankrupt, guess what? You'd only risk losing $1,000. Not true in the futures market. If you put up, say, $10,000 to buy whatever the initial margin is now. I think it's somewhere around $10,000 or $11,000 to buy a futures contract in the most heavily traded silver, the 5,000 ounce silver futures contract in New York. Guess what? You can lose a lot more than $11,000. And first of all, you can be chased out of your position. It's not like GameStop where they said, doesn't matter what the price is. We're all going to hold because we're all in this fight together. And they've done a really good job in that. But guess what? If the big players, the oligarchs, and they can move those prices of silver and gold down easily. For those of you that have been following me for over a decade, you know they can easily move the price down $50 an ounce in gold. They can easily move it $2-3 an ounce in silver in just a matter of hours. And guess what? What's going to happen if they do that? Everyone's going to be chased out of their position. There is no let's hold no matter what, because guess what? You're going to get a margin call. And if you don't get a margin call, if you don't have the money to keep putting in, and the cardinal rule is when investing in financial assets, you don't put money after losing money. You don't keep continuing putting money on losing money. But that's what you'd be forced to do to keep your position in the futures markets when the big boys come in and manipulate the price. And if you do, you could still be chased out and in the future, and you could lose because you have to come up with the margin call to keep your position. Otherwise, it's automatically sold. The brokerage firm is going to automatically sell your futures contract. You have no say. That is the law. So somebody that said, hey, let's go try to attack them in the futures market. No, I'm telling you right now, for anyone thinking of doing that, you should not do that. You're going to lose your money and all of it. I guarantee you it. If you try to go after them in the futures market by engineering a short squeeze. And this is not saying lie down. I just understand how much power those people will. Unless you get billionaires to play this game with you. But how many billionaires are you going to go to fight against the same class they're in? You're not going to, because these people have endless pockets to rig those futures markets. You're not going to win. And also, go study the case of Daniel James Plunkett of Barclays. This was one banker in the entire world. He was able to move the price in the gold futures market. One banker was able to move the price of the gold heavily in the futures market. So you think you're going to win against these guys? You really better understand how prices are manipulated in the gold and silver markets if you're going to try to take on the big boys, because you're going to be the Pied Piper in a bad way. You're going to lead a lot of money into losing, a lot of people, and to want to do something good into losing a lot of money. So that is basically, I guess, what I have to say on this particular issue for GameStop, because I think there's some things that we need to speak about that people don't understand. So hopefully that sheds some light for those of you that know people that are involved in this fight that don't understand what I just said, please do pass on this podcast to them. Please send them the link. Please subscribe to my podcast at skwealthacademy.podbean.com. It's absolutely free. There's no charge for that podcast whatsoever. You can download the MP3 files are downloadable, so you can listen to it while you're out running or you're at the gym or riding the subway. So it's portable in that sense. And lastly, I want to give a big up to those of you that have supported me on my GoFundMe campaign to help me eventually launch my 22 course online academy, SK Wealth Academy. If you'd like to contribute, you can go to the link which I'll put in the show notes below, and you'll find the GoFundMe link to my particular campaign there. So thanks so much for listening. Always remember, stay united, stay strong. We need to stay united. I can't stress that enough. We can't be fighting with each other. I don't care. Black, white, yellow, red, brown. We need to unite and stop fighting amongst each other. Middle class, poor, rich, because unless you're in the 1% of the richest, even if you're rich, you're still, guess what? You're still not in the room where all the other people are that's deciding all the policies for the rest of us. So we all have to stay united and stop bickering amongst each other. So thanks so much for watching. Stay strong and bless up, and always remain intensely curious. So long.